Yeah, just a quick review of the Wilson Tour Slam Adult Recreational Tennis Racket. So this is a great racket, I think, for the beginning tennis player. One reason is because it's got this oversized 110 square inch head to give you a nice margin of error. So let's face it, it's just down to geometry. The bigger the size is of the head, better chances you are of actually hitting the ball. So just know that. The other important thing is it has these stop shock pads near the throat of the racket. So that does a couple things. It helps reduce vibration, and that in turn I think provides you some extra comfort for your arm when you're swinging. So as you hit the ball, you're going to get vibration down the racket, and then it'll travel up your arm. So the less vibration gets to your wrist, your elbow, and your shoulder, the less chance you are of having any kind of injuries. That's really important. Last thing to know is the grip size is 4.5 inches, so know that. So if you do play a lot of tennis, tennis players are notorious for having shoulder problems and rotator cuff tears. So I want to bring up one other quick resource, the 6-minute torn rotator cuff solution for seniors. It says for seniors, but I mean, the program is pretty solid. Even high-level athletes can use it. The rotator cuff is the main stabilizer of your shoulder. Now, the shoulder is a very shallow ball and socket joint, and it depends heavily on the muscles to support it. Not like the hip. Your hip is a ball and socket joint, but it's a deep ball and socket. So it doesn't rely as much as the muscles to keep everything in place. Shoulder's totally different. And mainly it's the job of the rotator cuff to keep everything in place. The ball adheres tightly to the socket. So it just goes over like, a little bit of anatomy. But this is a great question and answer point. If you have kind of a rotator cuff tear, what are the symptoms of a rotator cuff tear? Are there any arm maneuvers that might indicate I have a rotator cuff tear? What imaging tests are used to diagnose a tear? Where does it tear at? Goes over other things like, are there different kinds of tears? Here's a great one. I have a rotator cuff tear and I'm in a lot of pain. I need surgery, right? Well, not necessarily, and I'll tell you why. This is a very evidence-based book, and each one of these is a study. So what they've done is they've taken people with groups of people that have maybe 100 people that have rotator cuff tears. And what they do is they measure the size of the tear, and then they also do a pain scale. So they see, how bad are you hurting? And what they try and do is they try and correlate how big the tear is to pain levels. Now, you would think the bigger the tear, the more pain you're in, but that's actually not what they find. They actually find lots of people with big tears that have very little pain, and actually people with small tears that are in a lot of pain. And then there's the fact that some people even have a rotator cuff tear that are walking around that have no pain. So basically, there's not a lot of correlation between your tear size and your pain level, so you don't want to jump into surgery just based upon your pain. Other things, what will happen if I just leave my rotator cuff tear alone? Has a rotator cuff tear set me up having shoulder arthritis? That's interesting. Here's probably the most important. How does exercise compare to surgery when it comes to treating my torn rotator cuff? Well, the only way you can answer that scientifically is by doing a randomized controlled trial, and that's where you take, say, 100 people with a torn rotator cuff, and you randomly assign 50 to surgery, and the other 50 you assign to doing a good exercise program. Then you follow them over 6 months, a year, 2 years, and you find out who did better over time, the people that had surgery, the people that just did the exercise program. Make a long story short, you end up at the same place. So no matter whether you have surgery or you just do a good exercise program, according to the randomized controlled trials, you're going to be doing the same. And they have an exercise program here. They have 3 different levels. So if you can hardly move your arm, they have a program for that. And you can go to the 3rd level if you just want to prevent pain and you actually have a pretty high functioning shoulder. So yeah, a lot you can do with a rotator cuff tear besides surgery. But yeah, if you're looking for a good recreational tennis racket, I think this is a good one. So check it out.